Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mechbay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh. I've got my co-host, Lore Master Denim.
Howdy, howdy.
And Turkina's chosen son, Steve.
Hello.
And we are the Mechbay Podcast, your number one source for all things casual to competitive tabletop Battletech. And today, we're talking about getting ahead in Battletech.
Just roll 12s.
Now, is that ahead is one word or two words? Your co-host, which one? Which one in my audio format?
You think I read the notes?
It's whatever you wanted to think or be. Oh, man. Yeah, we're talking about the head. That's right. It's a simple episode, simple concept, but complex in its execution. So stay tuned. But first, as always, we've got some hobby news, hobby progress, games played, and some upcoming events to get through first. Right, news. I think the big one is Shrapnel 18 is out, dropped. When someone in the Shrapnel world tell me.
Oh, yeah, it's out. Yeah.
I missed like the last two. I've been so busy. I can't believe I missed the last two Shrapnels.
I saw them released. I have not read them. But
yeah, neither have I, Denim. I'm surprised that we're closing in on 20.
I have a whole shelf. That's what 18 means. Yeah. I have a whole shelf dedicated in the library dedicated to just Shrapnels now.
That's cool. I have them all in ebook. I don't have the physical versions.
Yeah, but I have a library, so I have to buy physical books because it looks cool.
Okay, yeah, I remember this one now. You've got I want to say Penetrator and not an Argus. It's that other one, the Hellspawn, fighting the Hunchback 2C on the front.
Oh, is that where that art came from? I've seen that. That's a great piece of art. Unfortunately, it's the Jade Falcon Hunchback 2C that's getting blown to pieces. But
yeah, about that.
Hey, we don't know how that ends. He probably wins the fight. He doesn't need that arm. He doesn't need that arm.
As the missiles go through his body.
I mean, the Hunchback 2C has 25 seconds worth of ammo, so it's not in there for the long haul.
It's not there for a long time. He's there for a good time and a short time and a dead time. All right, Shrapnel 18, moving on. We got Brian Young's Ghost Dogs. They are edited again. They are in Let Slip the Dogs of War. That's out, I want to say, like this weekend. So now.
I like Kellhound stuff. I like it a lot.
So I was confused because I saw like the little logo at the bottom. I was like, that I don't recognize that one. I did not know this is like, because I haven't been keeping up. I'm behind. I'm real behind, folks. This is like Kellhounds that split off and they're doing their own thing. And this one it's set in the Fur Worlds League and they're fighting the Marian hegemony. So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
They're like Kellhounds in exile.
If I had a nickel for every canine in exile. But yeah, no, it's like the cover is cool. You got the Wolfhound fighting an Atlas. Like, plus, I know like the few, like all three Marian hegemony fanboys out there are going to be like, woo, Marian Space Rome. Let's read that. Yeah, I have no idea what they do there. I'm going to go with it's the Fallout Rome kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet myself, but I've heard good things about it already, so I'm excited.
All right.
I need more hours in the day. I would read so much more.
Yeah.
To follow up on our last episode, A Skulk of Foxes, the third in the Fortunes of War series, is out now, and that's by Jason Hansa. So, yeah, you've got that beautiful king crab on the front cover, just unloading.
Gorgeous. And I think, if I recall correctly, you can also pre-order now the Hounds at Bay, which is the fourth installment of the Fortunes of War book. That's by Jeff Swift.
Yes.
I think that's also available for pre-order now. I don't think it's out yet, but soon. TM.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah, anything else for news? I know pretty much all the Catalyst people were out at either Nova or PAX West, so not much has been happening store-wise. I know we've had a few shipping updates. Are the shipping updates coming?
It's actually funny, Josh. We recorded our last episode, and I said I didn't have my stuff yet. Literally the next morning, I had my email from Catalyst. So I have since received all of my stuff. But we can talk about that in Hobby Progress.
I do know the big thing right now is there were some stock shortages of some select items.
Every single thing on the list of stock shortages, like the House Arano stuff, and there were a couple other things, some Somerset Striker things, I think. Every single thing that they listed, I've got that. So I will be last.
Yeah, and that's curious. I'm surprised so many things are short. I mean,
it doesn't surprise me that much. It's a lot. Like there was a lot of things from a lot of different places.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, everybody had placed their orders through the Kickstarter. They knew how many they needed, right?
Right.
And if you
but
can
then
count
you have
how
to
many,
you have to get the ones into the right place. So if a box or 10 went somewhere else, then you have to reroute them and ship them back. Everything takes time.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's shortages. Sometimes there's just problems.
Yeah, this was one of the reasons why I did like a very small Kickstarter order, because I was worried about that. Like, I love that they do a lot of swag, but it also makes me anxious because it's like that is like 32 different patches, like different patches, and it's like that's a lot of items. I'm here for the plastic, so I'm going to get the minimum amount of boxes and just lock it in.
I could buy all the plastics from my local store. I'm here for all the swag stuff that I can make my Battletech persona out of. The patches I can put on my jackets and the pins and like all the weird special stuff that's it's exclusive or at least rare. That's the stuff I'm going for the Kickstarters.
Yeah,
which is why my stuff is all delayed.
Exactly,
and I'm fine with that.
Actually, speaking of the swag, I just thought of this. I was surprised. So I had selected the Jade Falcon set with the pin and the patch and all that other stuff, and it comes with the challenge coin. And I had hoped that they were going to enamel those clan coins again.
Oh yeah,
and
I received
one that didn't have enamel on it. It's just a regular, metal challenge coin like you could buy off the store.
Like the unlimited ones.
Correct. And I was like, oh, I thought they were going to rerun them or they had some left in stock or something like that. I mean, there wasn't a picture on the Kickstarter, so I can't say that I was sold a false bill of goods because I wasn't. I was just shocked and a little bit bummed. And maybe I got the wrong thing. Maybe somebody else can correct us in the Discord.
Well, I have extra ones coming in for Smoke Jaguar. So I will let you know if it is if mine is enameled or not.
Okay, yeah, because if I have to reach out to somebody, I will. But I was just kind of shocked. I was like, oh, I already have this unenameled coin. That's why I switched my choice from Black Thorns over to Jade Falcon. Because I might get an enameled coin. That would be cool.
But if that's over, you just buy more.
I think I had done it at a time when, I don't know, something was going on. I might have been having a kid. That might have been why I wasn't spending a lot of money at the time. But
all right, so both Denim and Steve making separate choices, turning out to be somewhat wrong, but moving on. All right, Steve, you wrote down your hobby progress first, so I will let you talk about your hobby progress for this week.
Oh, man. Okay. Hobby progress. I was bad and good at the same time. I made a order from Fortress, so thank you, Bobby, for your swift and accurate delivery as always. I got myself a whole bunch of stuff for the Free Worlds League just for funsies. So I got a whole bunch of Copus battle armor. I got a Ghost. I got a Phalanx battle armor, some Purifiers. I got a Mangonel, which is swiftly becoming one of my favorite Innersphere mechs because it's just a monstrous machine. I did end up getting a crossbow because I needed one. And I bought 3 of the Comstar Battle Lance 2s because I needed more crabs. So we have a lot of force packs that came in the mail. So that was all my purchasing progress. I actually got bit by the painting bug and I painted a ton of stuff. So I painted a Wendigo, I painted a Blade, I painted a Giuliano, I painted a Wraith, a Stalker, a Warhammer 6R, an Orion, a Black Knight, a Locust, a Trebuchet, a Marauder, 4 Red Kite VTOLs, Condor Hover Tank, Phoenix 2C, and of course, a Mechbay Greyhound in Free Worlds League Merrick Militia colors.
Whoa, that's a lot.
I painted a lot.
What I hear is somebody got a new Adderall prescription.
No, it's the kid didn't have an ear infection and was sleeping through the night. So I actually got time to myself and I wanted to paint. So I did. It was kind of fun. I think the last time I seriously painted was before Southern Assault 3. was the last time I really sat down with my paints and really went at it. So this was a really nice breath of fresh air, and made a lot of good progress. Got to try out some new techniques that I don't normally do, and it made things go a lot faster. So still need to base them. That's the last thing I got to do. I'm working on some little greebles to go on the bases to make them look a little neater. But other than that, ready to go.
Were there any like techniques or anything that like you used to like work through that?
Because how many mechs' technique was open up, paint, dip in, done?
No.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking.
No. So with my Jade Falcons, I don't have an airbrush, so I have to do everything by hand. So I normally takes like 30 coats of yellow to get that really bright, vibrant yellow that I'm looking for. And it's something that bugs me, so I won't stop until it's done the right way. I want that bright, vibrant yellow.
Definitely invest in an airbrush then.
I don't have one. And frankly, at this point, if I were to change mid-stride, it would look different, and that would bother me more. So I'm locked in for the slow haul for my Falcons. But I did not want to get sucked into that doing purple for the Free Worlds League Merrick Militia. So what I did is, I normally don't dry brush. I do an edge highlight for my Jade Falcons. And I said, I'm not always a huge fan of the look of dry brushing, but I want to give it a shot and see if I can get better at it. And I did. And of course, when you're highlighting things, it goes way faster when you dry brush.
Yeah, it does.
And I was able to find a couple of shortcuts with, before I was doing panel by panel, I got a little bit aggressive in my dark purple, and then I got even more aggressive in my wash. So all my recesses got real dark purple. I get hit with that dry brush and lighten the whole thing up.
It pops.
Well, not only does it pop, but it went a lot faster than it had in the past. I learned a lot. My technique is getting better, so every model's coming out cleaner than the other ones, which is great. So just trying to flex that hobby muscle and try some new stuff that I'm not used to.
I'm proud of you, Steve. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, Josh.
Painting something other than green
and yellow. I was ready to be done with yellow, and I was torn. I really was. I was trying to pick an Intersphere faction, and frankly, nothing really called to me, but I'm like, purple seems cool, and I don't want to paint Canopus, so Free Worlds League it is. On the plus side, I was looking through their MUL. I get all sorts of cool Wobby stuff.
Nice.
I mean, it's true. It's true.
Yeah. How about you, Josh?
Oh, man. I have used the Labor Day weekend to get all of my assigned St. Ives and other mechs base coated green. So I do have an airbrush, and I was like, I just need the cheapest airbrush that will apply a thin layer of paint onto mechs. So that's how I get all my stuff done. Also, like you said, you were really struggling with yellow. I just bit the bullet. I knew if I was doing Comstar Word of Blake, I needed an airbrush. So I was like, yeah, we're doing white. We're doing an airbrush. We're doing this the right, easy way with my sanity intact as it is, at least. Denim will attest to that. But no, so I base coated all those Castellan green, and then I was like, I've got a few mechs that I could probably repaint to join this. So I did. I grabbed, 8 mechs, 2 vehicles, and a battle armor, and I painted them green. And I was like, we're just gonna do these right now. So I ended up finishing painting 4 mechs, so a whole lance. I did my battle axe, from the proliferation pack. I did my hammer hands from not the proliferation pack, but it's like the 3rd mech. A rifleman, which was my test scheme, and then my Super Griffin, which has been semi-painted, but in like 3 different paint schemes over the last 6 years, but never finished. And I painted them all. Davian, New Avalon, Institute of Science, Cadet Cadre. So like the College of Martial Sciences, like you finish your academy, and then you do like a 2-year stint in the training battalion, essentially. And I was like, they're just green.
Yeah,
they're just green. It's so easy and so good. But
yeah. What are you going to base them?
See, I debated long about that. I was like, I can either do New Avalon Rebel Jihad or New Avalon Rebel Ill Clan. So it really, whichever Rebel of New Avalon in the new year kind of thing. So I got to find some rubble and put on there. But I was like, streets, grays, like we're not going to get too crazy. They look good fighting in the streets.
Nice.
Yeah, because they don't really leave New Avalon very often. So I was like, that works.
The cadet cadre, no, they kind of stay there.
Exactly. But yeah, so like I had a super fun time painting these guys. Like I said, my Super Griffin, he's all dry brush. Like he's the base coat green, and he's, I want to say 3 layers of dry brush up, like Elysian, then 2 different, like a dry green, and then a yellowish green. So like, yeah. Look, dry brushing's great. It's great for mechs. You just top down, and then if you want like legs, sides, like it's so good. I did do the cockpits purple, and that was very fun because like you go from like that night rich shade to like a pink, like at the edge, and then like that whitish pink, purplish, and it's just so good.
It's funny because in my Free Worlds League, I did their cockpits green because they are purple.
Look at us. We found the complementing colors of both of our things. Now, I will say I repainted the Hammer Hands and the Battletech because they were for my Terran Hegemony army, and I was just like, I'm never going to play a Terran Hegemony force using these mechs. Like, they are Age of War. I don't need them for, like, my Age of War Lance, which is like a Mackie and a Swordsman and, like, stuff like that. Like, I don't need them. I'm never going to play with them as that. So I was like, fine, I'm just going to put you in the faction you belong. Now the problem is I have to pick the variants that I will use in my force for that. So
yeah.
I mean, the Hammer Hands is fun. He's like a baby Warhammer, except he's either 2 AC-10s, 2 LBX-10s, or 2 RAC-5s.
There is a right answer.
It's whichever one the BV fits.
It's not the AC-10 one. If you have an option between AC-10 and LB-10X, go for the LB-10X. But man, those RAC-5s are nice.
It specifically says meant for alternate ammo usage. And I was like, I do love some precision and armor piercing. Maybe.
I don't know. Armor piercing is just, you get too little. We'll go into that. Yeah, that's not a now discussion. AC-5 precision ammo, great. Armor piercing ammo, it's just so heavy.
Yeah. The +1 is what hurts it. But yeah, the Battletech has actually a cool like Jihad variant. 4 ER mediums. I want to say 3 MML 7s and a C3 slave. And I was like, I can play with that. I can do that. Super Griffin's just going to be Super Griffin unless I run it as like a random Griffin. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm learning that I like Griffins, but I hate the variants. Like, like they're all PPC and missile. They don't really change.
But there's nothing wrong with PPC and missile.
Didim has thoughts. Well, I mean, at 30-25, yeah. Because you get too close and you're like, well, now what am I going to do? I guess I can kick you. Ooh.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm like, I'm painting him in his canonical color scheme, but I don't know what I will do from there. And then the Rifleman's just the test Rifleman. Like, I don't know. They've got a RAC-5 variant of the Rifleman, of course. So who knows? Who knows? But yeah, so those are like done. Like I even freehanded the Federated Suns logo. Mental note, folks, don't do that.
Yeah,
buy the decals.
Those photos.
Yeah,
those
decals
photos look good. You did a good job, Josh.
But decals are so nice.
Yeah, decals are nice. I just am too cheap. Like they're $5, but it's less the cheapness. It's more the I don't want to wait the 3 days between me putting in the order to Fortress Miniatures and Games, Bobby sending them to me, and me being like, all right, no, I'm painting Comstar again. Like, no, I need them in the moment when the passion hits me.
Yeah, no, that's why I just got all my favorite factions and I just bought decals for all of them, even if I hadn't planned on painting them, because I knew that someday I might.
You know, those decals go bad after a while, right?
Yeah, but then I'll just buy them again. I don't care.
Me, I'll just freehand it and be miserable for like 30 minutes.
No, not me. I'm not going to punish myself that way.
But yeah, so like I said, painted 4 mechs. I'm happy. I've done more hobby progress in, quote, September than I did in August. So hooray me.
Well done.
He says on September 2nd.
Hey, it counts. It counts for the whole month.
Well, Denim, what did you do in the month of September?
In this month of September, nothing. August, though, I I don't have any of my Kickstarter stuff, but people love me, so I do have one of the Mercenary box sets.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, so I was able to go through all that, look through everything there, and I immediately made form-fillable PDFs with fancy signature fonts and everything to do all my contracts with, because they have to look good. My handwriting sucks, so I want to be able to type them up. I want to be able to print them out. I want them to look cool. I did put those on the Discord. I did not pin them. I guess I should go back and pin them at some point.
They're lost to time. They're gone.
I mean, I can just relink them again. I have that power. So if anybody else wants them, just let me know and I'll pin them. But yeah, I spent some time on that. I did a lot of contract stuff with it. It's fun. Obviously we'll go over this later, but first impressions, I love the Mercenary box set a lot.
It's quite good. And with that, let's just move into games played. And Denim, you want to just roll off with that?
Well, yeah. I did a couple games. One was with you, Josh, because we were testing out. I just got the box set. I was literally opening it up when you walked into the store. So
I was like, hey, you want to play a Mercenary box set game?
I'm like, okay.
Denim, you want to play?
So we did. And again, we're going to go over this stuff a lot more detailed, but rolling up the contract, picking the missions, negotiating our points, doing the mission, and then calculating everything afterwards. It was a lot of fun. I think the highlight of that was that I ended up with the Caesar with the hardened armor at the end of it. I was very, very pleased with that. I can't wait to use it in the next mission. And I have to, you've got to save all that stuff because the next mission, it's progressive, so we got to use this stuff we were either able to repair or salvage. So I'm excited about the next game. I can't wait to see where this contract goes.
Any fun stuff happen in that game? I mean, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. Yeah, we had vehicles. Those were fun. We had some airstrikes. Those were fun. I had a chameleon and a firefly, and that firefly I was so excited about. It's the one that jumps 8. Yeah, I was like, oh, look,
that was my problem. It was my problem with fireflies is that they have armor, they've got weapons, but they were slow. And this one jumps 8, and it was fantastic until someone's like, oh, I need an 11 to hit you with my PPC. And of course, it's a CT, 2 crits, 4 crit, 2 crit chances, ended up with 2 crits, gyro gone, punk. I'm not going anywhere, but not crippled, not in force withdraw. So forced you to spend 3 more turns trying to take this guy out. And I think that really helped the rest of my guys.
Yeah. I took a Huron warrior and a Vindicator, and that poor Vindicator was just like, all right, I've done more than I expected to do the entire rest of the game, so I'm just going to sit here and slowly crunch through the rest of the Firefly.
Oh, that Firefly, because you got behind the Firefly, and I'm like, that's great. I know the Firefly doesn't have lower arm or hand actuators. I'm going to flip my arms, and I have an AMS in both of my arms. Like, that's just the only weapon in the arms. All the weapons are on the torsos. I'm like, well, that's great. Fire missile at me.
Yeah, don't need a fire missile when the PBC hits you dead center.
Yeah, it hurt.
Takes out the gyro. One shot.
I had the chameleon, the Firefly, and then 2, J. Edgars, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and they did work.
They were nasty.
Yeah.
I took, like I said, the Huron Warrior and Vindicator, and I think I took
a big boy, Ontos?
Manticore? I want to say Manticore.
It was something big and beefy.
Yeah. And you wiped that off in 1 turn.
Well, I was I'm taking this guy out.
It's like, okay, fun. But so I fully destroyed because I killed the CT of the Firefly, and the Huron Warrior got 1 snub-nose PPC shot on your chameleon, so it went internal in the head, and
head, yeah.
And I took out your sensors with that, so I was on a lucky crit day.
You were.
I will say you still technically won the match.
Well, there's no technically about it. I mean, according to the rules, it was a victory, and I was nice enough to let you walk off the field so that I didn't have to ransom you your Huron warrior back.
Yeah.
which was within my rights to do so. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I forget how much fun like a 2v2 on a single map can be sometimes.
Yeah.
And the mercenary box, I will say, does add more stuff to do that.
Yep, and the vehicles, the way that they add the BSP vehicles, I just like a lot because they were there, they were meaningful, but they weren't overpowered. They're not mechs, and this makes it feel like it. You know, they're good for holding ground, they're good for taking positions. They always go first in initiative, though, so they can never sneak up behind a mech. Like if they're behind a mech, it's because that mech had to position themselves in such a way that you forced it to, not because you won initiative.
Yeah. Oh man, but no, it was a good game, and then we did the math afterwards, and I think it came out that, as is tradition, we both got screwed by the game, whether we like it or not.
That's how contracts work.
Exactly.
It is.
Anytime you have to sign a contract, you lost.
Yes.
So you got a second game in here?
No. Oh yeah, I got a second game, not a second Mercenaries one. I got a game in with Jeff. That was just like tournament practice. We were practicing one of the maps for Dustin's the TBT tournament. That was a fantastic game. It was so close up until like the very last turn, because the game only lasts 6 turns. And on the last turn, it was, if my Shadowhawk lived and his spider died, I would win by 1 point. But if my Shadowhawk lived and his spider lived, I would lose by 1 point. And I put something like 24 points of damage into that spider that turn.
Man.
And it just laughed at me. Yeah, I hit nothing. Like if I had done any damage to the right leg, it would have been gone. And that would have, it would, so many ways that could have gone right. And I hit it and I did damage, but I just spread it around so nicely. So I ended up losing by 1 point, but it was so exciting and so close. I'm not going to go over all the details because, you know, I think there are going to be some small changes anyway. So there's no real point, but, and I don't want to give away any of Jeff's like list yet. Fantastic list though. It was a good one, but yeah, that was a fun game.
All right. Steve, did you get any games in this week?
Yeah. Like I said, I got my Mercenaries box, and inside of that contained the Encounters box game, the push your luck dice game, which I have not had a chance to play yet because I didn't go buy it at Barnes & Noble. I was waiting for it to come in my Kickstarter stuff. And I managed to con my wife into sitting down. I said, hey, I got a new board game. You want to play with dice and cards? And she goes, yeah, I'll check this out. And she goes, this is robots, isn't it? So, I mean, she was already sitting at the table at that point, so she was contractually obligated to play with me.
The wine has been poured. You must play.
Right, that's it. So we did a quick game in the Encounters. It was fun. I enjoyed it for what it was. And I think we played it wrong, but some ambiguities in the rule packet, but we figured it out and we ended up correcting ourselves halfway through the game. But it was fun. It was a good time. She actually said she enjoyed it too, which is good. I also managed to get a Southern Assault test game in. I built a test list, and it's a new faction and a different style of play. So I wanted to kind of take things out for a spin and see how they went. It's hard. It's really, really hard to change your tactics when you find a group that you like to play as. And Intersphere Mechs are just such a wild difference from clan stuff, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So I managed to play a game with James down at the local game shop. He played Sea Fox Eel Clan. He brought a Fire Falcon, Black Hawk, a Black Lanner, Loki Mark II, Karnov UR Transport, Salamander Battle Armor, Gnome Battle Armor, a King Crab, a Turkina, and 2 LRM carriers, one at skill 2 and one at skill 3. This list was...
Did you break his kneecaps afterwards? Like,
no, it was such a brutal list. And honestly, I held my own. I did okay. I brought a Charger, the Mangonel, a Phoenix Hawk 2C, a Hunchback, a Wendigo, a Blade, 2 Red Kites, and a Condor Heavy Hover. And the game only lasted 4 turns. We did the 3 objective hold right across the midline of the map. Just, something to move and shoot and try to hold everything, kind of give your list a once over. Turn 1 went fairly well. I managed to kill his salamanders, but he got 2 motive crits on both my VTOLs. So they didn't fall out of the sky. They just took the motive one, so they slowed down a lot. I did manage to kill his Fire Falcon, but all of his stuff had heat. So all of a sudden, my guys are cooking, right? He immobilized my Condor on turn 1, despite having reflective armor and an AMS system. Immobilized. Thankfully, I was parked on an objective, so at the end of that round, I was up by 2. Turn 2, both VTOLs got killed. My poor Hunchback got an ammo explosion. Now, this is funny. It has case. The Charger C has case. And I'm like, aha, you got an ammo explosion, but I have case. This is great. The downside was I only had 1 structure remaining, so it blew up anyway. And yeah, so the rest of the game went about as expected, right? Things died all over the place. One other exciting point is my Phoenix Hawk 2C. He got a ammo explosion on my Phoenix Hawk 2C, but it is an E&E mech, so it didn't explode, which is great. I never got around to killing his LRM carriers because he parked them in the back in a cluster of woods, and he just let me have it the entire game. At the end of the day, my Wendigo did not die because it had reflective armor, and James was a little bit timid, and I ended up getting the objectives every round, so I ended up winning 7-0 on objective points. But if he had fully committed and pushed when he needed to in the middle of turn 2, that would have been a very, very different game. So I'm not sure I love the list. I think I need to make some tweaks, but it was a great game overall, and I got to kind of take some new mechs for a spin, and I think I need to make a little bit of changes, but I'm getting a feel for how I think I want this army list to run. So that was pretty exciting.
It's my biggest advice to people playing Alpha Strike is play the objective, like for real.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, it's always fun to watch things explode, but it doesn't net you that many points comparatively, right? So, Josh, you get anything other than your game with Denneman?
Yeah, I got another game. I got a game against Scott from scotsgameroom.com, and that was also a Merc box set game. Technically, this was before Denham's game, so like this was my first unboxing and playing with it. I took an Emperor and an Anubis versus Scott's Penetrator and Bushwhacker, and we rolled up that I was the attacker, and we were playing the track where you have to like whoever has the most in the middle, essentially.
Yeah.
And
none of those mechs were from the box set, though, right?
No. I'm always like, okay, box set is cool, but look, I don't want to say I don't like the quick draw, but
I love the Chameleon. I wanted to use that in one of my groups. Anyway, go on.
But yeah, so we read the rules not perfectly, so we played on 2 map sheets, which definitely increased the amount of time I was just running and walking. And oh man, my poor Anubis definitely was not meant for that game with its 4 LRM5s. So it's just plinking away at the Bushwhacker as the Bushwhacker's firing back with, autocannon 10s and ER large lasers. And it's like, oh, okay, you have one of your guns has the firepower my whole mech puts out. And the Emperor is trying to dance with his Penetrator. And that's a lot of pulse lasers on Penetrators. Like, I know it's a laser mech, but like you don't realize that until he's like, all right, I roll this many dice and it's -2. And it's like, oh no.
It penetrates armor. It's in the name, Josh.
Yeah, and that game really went down to my Emperor overheating a little bit, so I stood still. So then the Penetrator jumps behind me, and it puts all those lasers, and I want to say it got a gyro and another engine hit. Got 2 crits. Because I chose to upgrade my piloting, I did not fall, but I did start to overheat. I want to say the next shot would actually hit another engine, putting me into force withdrawal.
Oh, one engine, 1 gyro is force withdrawal.
Okay, so that was already there. So I knew that I was yeah. I was like, I'm in force withdrawal at some point in this story. So that was when it happened. The Anubis tried to do the same thing to the Bushwhacker, but unfortunately, its little punching arms do not good damage. So yeah. So my Emperor stayed up the whole time, which was impressive, but because it did get into force withdrawal, it did count as a quote loss. Yeah, no, I just needed some more more damage than the other mech. But that was a good game. Like, there were a few points where I was like, because I took a maximum jump inventory, and the fact that the assets have to move first was kind of like screwing me over. It's like, oh no, like let me drop my inventory off behind you. And it's like, no, no, that's not how this works. So I did use them to spot for LRM fire, which was fun. I did not hit because it's still, you still got to roll hard, but it was fun.
At least infantry in there don't have the spotter bonus or the spotter debuff or buff. Debuff, whatever the penalty. The penalty.
Yeah, they just spot, which is great. Yeah. So, like, if you're doing LRMs, you just take the asset inventory and they spot for free. You slowly get the indirect fire, but they spot for free. So, that was cool. Didn't help me. That Anubis did not die, and he was very mad that it did not die because he was trying so hard. I think he whiffed 4 shots on 6-ups, and I was like, "Yeah, you should have hit me."
Been there.
That's brutal.
Like in the rear, like short range in the rear, like he should have killed me. Did not. So the Chancellor was with me, but I still lost. So yeah, that was fun.
I'm looking forward to a lot more of these contractual games.
They are how I am planning to play most of my pickups for going forward. So I just can't wait for the more supporting materials for that. Because I'm gonna burn through this mercenary flippable book real fast.
Well, they're coming. They're coming.
Yes, they are. All right. Do we want to move on to some upcoming events?
Yes.
All right. We'll let the Michigan people talk about their Michigan GT.
Sure, yeah. So if you're listening to this, there is still time at the end of September 20th to the 22nd, that whole weekend. There's Alpha Strike and Total Warfare coming to the Michigan Grand Tournament, or Michigan GT. That's in the Lansing Center in downtown Lansing. They've got Alpha Strike Open, 350 games, Drafted for War, narrative events, and of course my favorite, the Total Warfare Grinder. You can sit there for many hours and blow up lots of stuff, or get stuck in a Clint for 4 hours. But no, check it out at michigant.com. Should be a heck of an event. So you still got time to sign up. And if you want to, check it out. Additionally, there is down in Ohio, down in Toledo, there's a Glass City Alpha Strike tournament on November 9th. And that's Saturday from 12 until whenever that's done. You can learn more at the Toledo Game Room on Facebook and sign up there.
We also have a returning event. This is the Battletech Atlanta Toys for Tots tournament, and that is on December 7th in Duluth, Georgia at Level Up Games. Now, that's a classic tournament, folks. You've got 7,500 BV, Jihad era, and it's faction locked. So bring your ECM and your tinfoil.
Right.
I mean, I love to see it, so... I'm trying to think. Yeah, those are our events. Like, I don't know. I'm tempted. I'm tempted, Duluth, Georgia. I'm putting you in the maps net right now. How far are you away? Are you? How far?
I'm a big fan of the Toys for Tots anyway. I always, every year, give a couple starter boxes, Battletech starter boxes to there. Because why not?
You just put crack in the bins too, Denim?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, just
I
get hooked when they're young?
Yeah. With my business card.
If you'd like to know more, call me.
All right, Matt's putting it at 5.5 hours and 55 minutes. So maybe next time. I forgot how far Georgia is. Geography hard. I want to use jump points. 1 week. Everything takes 1 week.
That's longer than 5 hours, Josh.
I know. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about getting ahead in Battletech.
Warning, damage critical. Ammunition depleted.
Welcome to the beaches of Canopus. Away from the chaos of the battlefield awaits rest and relaxation of a quality unsurpassed by the successor states. Trade in your cooling vest and neuro helmet for a cold martini and a nap in the sun. Or perhaps try your luck at one of our sphere-renowned casinos. Indulge in free culture and arts in our renowned galleries while expanding your palate with tastes local and foreign at authentic high-class restaurants and bars. Everyone knows that the Magistracy is unsurpassed in pleasure and relaxation. Book a transcendent experience with an agent near you and return to your life truly refreshed.
Welcome back. Now, like I mentioned, today we're talking about getting ahead in Battletech. And when I mentioned that, I didn't realize I'd only be talking about the head of the Battletech.
That's what Keith forms whenever Voltron is made.
Oh, I'm shaking my head. Shaking my head. Yeah, no, just HD head. Most simplest representation. The least important part of the mech, right? Right?
It's the hardest to hit, theoretically.
Theoretically. Statistically, no. Theoretically, yes. Statistics say bullets be catching.
Apply directly to the forehead.
Now, I've always thought that the head had both too low of a chance to hit, but also too high at the same time. Like, it feels weird.
Yeah, it's another one of those where it seems like the odds of hitting it are low, but the more you play and the more mechs are on the field, the more often it will happen. And it's one of those things that makes stories happen in the game. So I think once you get to 4 mechs on each side and above, you tend to see at least one headshot every game.
Or, like the one I talked about with Martin last time, and I rolled like 5. It was insane. I mean, sometimes it happens, and you put 3 clusters of LRMs into an Orion's head.
That man had a death wish. You put him out of his misery.
I felt so bad. Martin doesn't believe me, but I know.
That man had a family.
Anyone who plays a lot of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries or MechWarrior Online knows that it's not actually that hard to hit the head. And they have to fake it in those games to make it so that you don't do nearly as much damage, because people just be shooting the heads off all the time.
I hate that. I hate how, like, you'll just be walking, you'll stand still, and like all the lasers just focus directly point blank on my screen. I was like, look, it's not that easy to hit my head, even if I'm sitting still.
Look, I've given up on certain competitive online shooters because I'm no longer I'm no longer that 20-something who can get by on nothing but energy drinks and potato chips. I just can't do it anymore. My reflexes are degrading. I'm becoming an old man. I can't play those like quick crackhead reflexes. I can't.
I used to play games competitively online. I did. I earned prizes and money doing that stuff. But once you get to be a certain age, and it's very clans. Like when you're approaching 30, you're done. You're done.
You don't have those quick fire reflexes anymore, and it's terrible. And it's frustrating because I found myself beginning to insult other players by saying, "Get a job! Don't you have responsibilities?" And I realized they don't have it, and I'm like, "Oh God, I've aged out."
They're 12. They're 12-year-old kids.
Oh, that's the worst. When they finally come onto comms and they insult your mother, you're like, "How old are you?" Focus.
I could be your
back
father.
To the head.
All right, so both issues, Steve and Denim, Hunchback 2Cs. Got it.
Uh-huh.
Maybe for Steve, a Crab 2C, but we're waiting on that one too. He's dreaming. He's fantasizing. All right,
one day.
We're snapping him out. All right, so I broke this down. We got 6 slots in the head. We're going to talk about each slot that is in, quote, the head of a regular battle mech. So I was like, let's start with slot 1, and that's life support. Now, I used to think this was completely useless, and then I researched for this episode, and I'm like, you know what? It's still pretty useless. Why is that? Why is life support not as like? I
could tell you. I could tell you right now why.
Do it.
Double heat sinks.
Yeah.
The life support rules were made before double heat sinks were ever conceived, and our heat would routinely go up into the 20s in the old single heat sink days because the heat scale is a resource and you've got to use it. So you'd have wild heat fluctuations and it would matter. Life support would matter. But now with double heat sinks, when you can sink 68 heat per turn or more, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. So life support in the rules, like I'm breaking it down here. It's essentially 2 air conditioning units, one on each side. And if your heat is between, let's say one of them gets criticaled out, like we're going to talk about a floating BB that somehow hits the life support, and it takes one.
It happens. It's not like a random. Yeah. Like this happens.
So your life support goes out, and everything else on the mech is perfectly fine. If your heat is between 15 and 25, aka smoldering hot, you take 1 pilot hit if your life support doesn't work. If you are more than 25 heat, you take 2 pilot hits. If you are submerged or in vacuum with a life support that has been criticaled out, you take 1 pilot hit, aka you have no oxygen and you have no air conditioning.
And that's per turn.
Yes.
Yep.
So if you get real hot, you could theoretically just cook yourself like a TV dinner.
Yep.
Gross.
Double heat sinks. It's all fine.
Yeah.
Now, the nice part about the life support is if you do take a life support hit, you have a free crit slot because only 1 life support matters. So the other one is non-functional, and you can get that crit with no additional bonuses or penalties.
Yeah, that always felt weird. Like, why is there a, quote, redundant life support?
It's just big. It's just big enough to take up 2 slots.
We got industrial HVAC in the head.
Yeah.
No personal window,
The other one's the heater, and you never need that.
I wanted to make the one's the AC, one's the heater, but when in the mech am I ever going to want to turn on the heat?
Never.
Now, I did think it was interesting. There are 2 quirks that affect your life support. The most useless quote, we're gonna air quote it, useless part of the head has 2 quirks, a positive one and a negative one. The positive one is improved life support, and that gives you a -5 heat for the purposes of determining if you take the pilot hits. So, like, if you're at 15 heat, normally you would take a pilot hit. This means you're at 10 heat still, so you have to be at 20 actual heat to start taking damage.
All right. I mean, that's not useless if you're playing with quirks.
Yeah, but you've only got a window of 20 to 30. You need to play with that expanded heat scale because normal, once you hit 30, you're shutting down anyway, so it doesn't matter. But if you play that with the expanded heat scale, that's important.
Yeah. Now, the other one, the negative quirk, is poor life support, and that treats you as +5 after a critical hit. Now, that's a lot nastier because I've met, like, if you're a TSM mech with poor life support, if you get to 10 heat, you take a pilot hit. Like, that's a little more scary.
Are there any mechs out there that have TSM with the poor life support quirk?
I'm going to go with probably, but I'm not going to check that because...
Yeah. Shrug. I don't know.
Yeah. It's life support. Do you really want me to go through every mech that has poor life support? Do you want me to open up the Battle Mech manual and go to...
I mean, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah,
you would search that in Mega Mech.
I know.
You mean I have to do research on my own time, Denham?
Yeah. Get you, and this podcast is about getting you 90% of the way there in those edge cases. And the only edge case I can think of is something that wants to be at 9 gets hit by like a single Inferno SRM. Boom, you take a pilot hit automatically. That's yeah. Now, normally by the end you've already taken head damage, and you're probably not doing great already. But. Yeah. So we want to move on to slot 2?
Yeah, I mean, life support. It's
your
AC.
Sensors. This one came up in our games, Adam, and I was like, kind of the inspiration for this whole episode. It's like, oh man, what do sensors do?
I love the first line, the what it says it is a collection of. Sensors are a collection of infrared, mag scan, radar, and seismic sensors. And I've got to say that seismic sensors are like my favorite Mechwarrior Online sensor suite to use, because then you can like see them coming around rocks and stuff. You don't have to see them. You know where they're coming from. But it never really comes into play in the actual game itself.
No, it doesn't.
Unless you're doing the RPG.
Or using, quote, the optional rules. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, that's true.
So... in our game, I I hit you with 10 damage, and I did 1 crit to your head. I rolled a 2. So I destroyed one of your sensor suites.
Yes.
And that caused a +2 to shooting attacks.
Which sucks.
It does.
Does not affect melee, but all my shooting attacks are +2.
Yeah. Now, technically, there is a second sensor suite in the cockpit, or in the head, I should say. And if I destroy that one, it's not a +4. It's just you can't shoot at all.
Right. Yep. You can punch, kick, bite, but you cannot shoot anything.
That's crazy. Like that. I also understand if you are critting stuff in the head, things are already going poorly for you, but like to completely remove shooting. And I want to say if 2 are destroyed, you're also in forced withdrawal. Like if you have no sensors.
Are you asking or are you saying?
I'm just saying, and like if you have opinions or not.
No, I mean, like, are you asking or saying that's forced withdrawal?
I'm saying.
Okay.
I am confident that is forced withdrawal.
Okay, good.
So I've never had both sensors be destroyed ever.
I have like this year.
Once.
Not even a long time ago. This was a game back in 38. No, this was this year. I've had that happen.
How do you feel when your sensors get destroyed in your mech?
Yeah, I just ran around trying to kick people. I mean, technically I was in forced withdrawal, but I don't think that game cared about that at all. So it was I just became a melee mech because I went running around. It was with that Crusader anyway, the Crusader with the claws in TSM. So I didn't care about the sensors at that point, except for that was where the question came up. It said that you cannot make any attacks. Does it mean you can't hit with any attacks or you can't make any? Because I still wanted to fire weapons to keep my heat at 9. But it says you can't make attacks. And we treated it as you can't hit with anything. So I was free to pull the triggers and keep that heat up. It didn't matter because the mech went down that turn anyway. But that question came up.
That's wild. We're going to have to post that to the forums to get a question. It says, I may not make attacks, but I want TSM for my melee mech. It's like, no, you may not make attacks.
No, I will.
No, can't you just shut down the heat sinks that you don't want in order to get the heat up?
I could, yeah. But you have to, there's a lot more planning when it comes to
that's a lot more math. Now, there was one quirk that I could find for sensors, and that is improved sensors. Easy. But that essentially gives you an active probe for free.
Woohoo!
Now, if you already have a probe, you get 2+ hexes to its range.
And
so
there's probes out there with an 8 range, so that gives you a 10 for that.
Yeah, I was like, this is actually good.
Yeah.
It's a decent range, yeah.
If you're playing with the other optional rules of, probes and whatnot, it's like, you're ignoring woods, 8 hexes away or
10 hexes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. Oh,
that's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, I respect sensors a little bit now. And then I went to the optional rules section. I was like, ooh, there's like 2 major optional rules sections that affect just your sensors. The first one was the concealing information section. So this is like almost if you were wanting to play like the battleship style games where, I have my page and I don't show it to you.
Right. Double blind rules. This excels in double blind.
Mm-hmm. So as long as your sensors are active, you can roughly determine the armor statuses. So like that's like literally the Mechwarrior Online. Like you're not seeing how much exact blips of armor the enemy has. You're looking at percentages. So like
that colored wireframe.
Yeah, green, yellow, red, black. Like that's what it lets you see. So if you're not wanting to like, hey, can I see your sheet? Yeah. It's like, hey, what's your left arm's armor? And then they're like, yellow, and then you're like, cool, that's somewhere between 90 to 50. It's either just gotten scratched or it's just about at a breakaway point. Yeah, the other thing you can do is, this is more RPG, of course, but if we're getting in optional rules, that's already where you are. You can scan.
I live there.
Yeah, I mean, as we move to the mercenaries contracts and campaigns, I was like, I want to do more little stuff like this. So like having it as an option for like fun RPG plays is fine. So yeah, you can scan a unit if you have working sensors, but you just have to be within line of sight, and you can essentially ask one question to the other player. Like the example was, how much armor is in a location, what model or variant, how much ammo per weapon, and what's its movement profile. So that's like you have
What is your pilot's middle name?
you have to roll really well for that one. If you roll boxcars and then you roll another boxcars, you get to know their social security number. It's 1. They're the first pilot. But yeah, so I liked that. Like I liked the option of like, this is not even double blind. This is a blind game. Like you don't know what you're looking at. You know, from your years at the academy, you know it's probably a Centurion, but you have no idea what variant it is, what it has, how much ammo. Is it working, or is it just salvage that they just kicked out the door kind of thing? What do y'all think about like those RPG rules?
I love them. I've used a lot of these in RPGs or double blind games. I know we're about to talk more about some double blind. I have run double blind games. The sensor, I ran a play by email double blind game, so that way we weren't all sitting around the table for 2 weeks, because it does take a long time. But we played that for weeks. Like it was just one regular game of Battletech 4-on-4. And it took weeks to do, but it was a lot of fun because we all did it, between classes or after work or whatever. And using the sensor rules in double blind was a lot of fun, especially seismic sensors.
Yeah, this for me is Megamech only type rule usage, right?
I
don't have the time.
Megamech does have double blind, so you can do that sort of thing.
Yep, and the computer takes care of all of it and tracks all the units and everything else, which is super nice.
But it helped. Like the reason why I know the rules is because I've done it by hand.
I'm sure. I'm doing anything on paper, right? I mean, at the actual game table will help cement it in your mind. There's no doubt in my mind that Megamech is a crutch for learning how to play Battletech, right? But it sure does reduce the time and paperwork.
Now, if we're doing double blind, the sensors do let you like. You can actually pick which of those, radar, infrared, mag scan, or seismic. So like each of those is its own section, like, and you have to choose per turn in the initiative phase which sensor you're going to use to scan.
Right.
And I was like, this is wild. How come we're not playing with this? And then I looked and I was like, oh, this is why we don't play with this all the time. Because like, normally you can just see, and everyone's happy. But this is if you're like pitch black or like it's a planet of darkness, and I don't know. But like,
well, there originally there was one map that was 90-something% woods. You just can't see anything on there, and the seismic sensors were great because if something was moving around, you'd be like, "Oh, I got a ping. Something is over in that direction. Let's go find out what it is."
Yeah. This also had the weirdest rule for rolling I've seen in Battletech. You roll 2d6 to see if like how well your sensors are working. On 2 to 4, it's a long range, so you use the long range band of whichever sensor you're using. 5 to 6, you get medium. 7 to 8, you get short, and on a 9 up, you get nothing. Like the sensors don't work outside of your hex essentially. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Because 7 or 8 is the most common roll you get, and you want to know what's close.
Yeah, but like 2 to 4, like no, we call that 10 to 12. Like no, bigger number better. Wow, like reverse this. Who thought this?
Yeah, this was 80s war game stuff.
Yeah, that's old style rules. I'm just gonna real quickly hit and touch the things. Seismic, I was like, oh, this looks cool. It's got like the range of inner sphere pulse, so it's like 246, and it really just detects if something used movement points, like walking or running in those hexes. So pretty standard in MechWarrior Online style. The infrared, it can only detect units that are being affected by heat so much that they have MP penalties. So
it's like 5.
Yeah, so 5 is the minimum. Quote, if they do not have MP penalties based from heat, they cannot be detected by infrared. I was like, well, that's not useful at all.
I do have heat, but I slathered my mech in mud and you can't see me now.
Like I'm not, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the mud. Just don't see me. And the mag scan, I was like, this will be cool, right? And it's like, well, It gets bonuses to range depending on the unit's weight class, and you can't see 20 tons and under at all. So.
Not enough metal. It's mostly plastic these days. They used to be made out of metal, but these days it's all plastic and fiberglass. So.
That's what endocomposite is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve, which sense are you rolling up to the field with?
I don't know. I mean, look.
The Mark Ones?
Yeah, Mark 1 eyeball.
An old eyeball. Yeah, no, I don't know. The infrared is always kind of neat, but we don't play with a lot of,
double heat sinks.
I know it kind of sucks.
Double
Okay?
heat sinks ruin the game. That's the core question of this episode.
All right, Denim Grognard confirmed.
No, dude, I love my double heat sinks, but it did change a lot of fundamental old school things like this.
This is how you make a 30-25 intro tech game interesting after 30 years. Because let's get real.
True.
You've probably done all the things you can do. So then you're like,
true.
Cool. We're on planet pitch black and we only have a visual range of 3 hexes. And then we have to play with searchlights. And then it's like, okay, your seismic scan will detect something at 6 hexes. So if you understand, okay, well, that's twice my visual range. So why wouldn't I? Steve's just smiling.
No, Mega Mech only games for some of that stuff. I swear, it's too much to deal with. It's just
we were bored. We didn't have the internet.
Maybe this is a function of me getting into Battletech more recently, and the fact that I just got a real job and have small children at my house that I just don't have the time for some of these cool, real immersive rules to play with.
So my thought was these get cooler the less things you have on the field. So the Mercenary box set, I've played 2 games that are 2v2s, which is 50% of what I've been playing with lately. In the last year, it's 4 or more. So I'm I'm only using 2 units. I want spicier 2 units now.
You had 3 and I had 4, but half of them were vehicles that
nobody cared about. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they were great. It was the right amount of care for a vehicle that a vehicle should have in the Battletech universe. It is the right amount of effectiveness.
barely at all. Maybe.
More than 0.
More than 0, but less than 1. But we'll get to the crux of the head in slot 3. Steve, I know you know what slot 3 is.
Yeah, it's the cockpit.
Yeah.
It's where the fleshy bits sit.
It's where Keith sits.
Where you self-insert main character are.
Are you kidding me? Being a battle mech pilot's dangerous. I don't want to be in one of those death traps.
Right? I'm either put me in the most dangerous thing possible, the proto-mech cockpit, or don't put me in the cockpit at all. Yeah, the cockpit. I know we've talked about how we imagine our cockpits on our Mechbay After Dark episodes, but they're not a cozy place to be, and especially broken down in
mine's not
rules-wise.
Cozy, but it is comfortable.
There you go.
Cramped, smells bad, hot. Doesn't sound like a great place to hang out.
Smells oddly of death.
Smells like victory.
So there's really only, I want to say 2 things about a cockpit. It has no effect until things happen to it. And the worst thing that happened to it is someone gets a crit, and the crit finds slot 3. And what happens? When
you just disappear.
Yeah,
You're just gone.
Yeah, it's
Pink
nope.
mist.
You don't pass go. You don't collect $200 or C bills or M bills or whatever. You're just gone. Cockpit crit is the fastest way to take out a pilot.
Time to break out the hose.
Nothing but hamburger. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm still in year 5, year 6 of playing Battletech, coming to grips that my pilot's just dead. All of my bonuses, all of my work, especially in the Mercenaries campaign.
Yeah, it matters in that.
Yeah, it's oh no, he's dead. I gotta hire a new one. I look at the rejects at the hiring hall, and it's ooh.
Yeah, you can get that 5-6 pilot for free.
I think something that's important about critical hits, especially revolving around the cockpit, right? They matter a lot more when you're not playing a random pickup game. Because when you just put Joe Schmo in the cockpit, oh no, I got a 3 on the head hit. Who cares? He's dead. Okay, fine. Next pilot, right?
Right. It's the exact same thing. If you get an engine crit, 3-engine crit. Like, there's so many ways to kill a mech. It's just one other way to kill a mech. Your mech is just
But when you're playing either an extended campaign or even a narrative game, all of a sudden these cockpit hits matter a lot more. There's a lot more weight behind them. And all of a sudden, I understood very clearly why auto eject is so helpful, and why the ejection rules matter. Because before it was like, just fight until you're dead. But when you have rules and you've paid for pilots, saving the meat becomes a lot more important.
Yeah. If we had to take our pilots from one tournament to another, then it would be an entirely different game. But we don't. Like in a tournament, pilots dead does not matter. Doesn't matter.
Win at all costs.
You get issued 52 pilots per year. Like, you get your quota, and it's like, all right, use them wisely. They're tracked. They've got QR codes. Every time you unwrap a pilot, you got to
the original rule books and box sets had ways to improve your pilot skills. So it was always intended that you have a stable of pilots that they get better. So yeah, all your games start off at like 4 5s, but the more you play, the better your pilots are. So you show up at the gaming store that week, and you finally have a 2-3 pilot, and oh no, Steve just got me a cockpit crit. I have to start over. Everyone was around, everyone saw it, like there's witnesses. I have to start. So next week when I come back, I got to use that 4 or 5 pilot again.
It's brutal.
It is.
So we've gone over what happens if your cockpit gets destroyed. And I was like, there's one thing this was like the first optional. I say optional, but it's in Battle Mech Manual, and that's ejection. I was like, why are we not ejecting pilots? Like, doesn't this matter? And like when we were just getting started in pickup games, it didn't. But now it does. So I was like, well, we need to talk about ejection. Battle Mech Manual is great because it gives you 2 ways. It gives you, quote, the simplified way and the actual, I want to say, simple way. Denim, let's talk about ejections.
All right. So ejection is fun. Ejection has been in the game forever. In the Battle Mech Manual, you've got a whole section of it. Basically, you can eject out of your mech whenever you want. I mean, it's in the movement phase. It's in the movement phase. Yeah. So in any movement phase that you are conscious, you can choose to eject. But sometimes you eject when you don't want to, and that's normally in the weapons attack phase. Doesn't have to be, but that's normally when it is.
Normally.
Yeah. So ejecting when you want to. In the movement phase, you say, I'm going to eject my pilot, and it ejects into the hex directly behind the mech. There are modifiers if you want to keep track of that stuff to see if you took any damage from that. Like, don't do it when you're prone. You can, but it's dangerous. I think you get a +5 modifier for ejecting when you're prone. You could slam right into a tree, high velocity. But yeah, like I said, sometimes you eject when you don't want to, and that most often happens when you get any sort of an ammo crit. When I say any sort, I mean that counts anything that in the rules says it is considered an ammo crit, like when your Gauss rifle explodes. Most of the time, it's anything that does significant damage to your internal structure, and in which case causes feedback in your neural helmet and gives you pilot damage.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like, I knew like that's how it worked, but I didn't know like the rules actually say like the mechs have sensors that detect when an explosion is happening and kick you out of the mech. Like,
right.
As soon as they're as soon as they hear ammo explosion, they're like, get out of here, pilot.
Right. It doesn't care if you have case or not. You still take the 2 pilot hits, but you eject. According to the rules, your mech just does this by default. You are allowed to disable your auto ejection, but you have to mark that on your sheet somewhere. That has to be marked down. You can't just decide that, it was off that game. If you don't mark it down, by default, it's on. And according to the rules, look, I got your ammo, you ejected. You don't get to say no.
No, auto ejection is Desgra. Only Innersphere pilots use auto ejection. True clanners fight to the death.
Well, yeah, there's no point in saving the pilot with them. They just got more More hatching next week. It's okay. Do you actually want to go through? I wasn't going to go through all the modifiers. I was just going to say that there were modifiers. If you want to, we can. Like that.
I just want to throw out the example. So like I want to do for the example for the process. So let's say Magic BB hits me, my Warhammer, finds the ammo. I'm already on the ground because I already failed a PSR, but I passed my seatbelt check. So I have no pilot hits to start with, but I'm on the ground. I'm prone. MG ammo cooks off. So I got 2 pilot hits, and the auto eject kicks me out. It kicks me out into the hex behind the Warhammer, determined by on the proneness, and it throws me into some heavy woods. So we've got heavy woods, prone, and automatic. So that is a +9. So yeah, prone is +5, automatic's +1, and heavy woods is +3. So I got a +9 to my quote piloting roll to determine how much damage, determine if I get damage on the ejection. So that's +9. Let's just say I roll it, I get a snake eyes, the worst one. So I get a 2. You take a margin of failure, and I don't want to say I always have to stop and like, what's margin of failure? It's just the difference, right?
Yep, just the difference,
okay.
And then just the difference.
So margin of failure 7, and then now I have to divide that by 2. So it goes to 3.5, a terrible number. Thankfully, it does say just round down. We're not trying to kill you here. Yeah. So
okay, so you can fail and still not take any damage. Then is what you're saying.
You can fail and still technically not take damage if the margin was low enough. Now,
if you're just shy.
Yeah. So on a margin failure of 1, it round to up half down to 0, as far as I'm aware. Someone check me on that.
It doesn't say minimum 1 damage.
Doesn't say minimum.
It just says margin of failure divided by 2 rounded down.
Yep.
So yeah.
So you're safe-ish. So on that roll, I would take 3 pilot hits. on top of the 2 I took from the ammo explosion.
Yeah, so you're at 5.
I'm at 5. On the off chance that he rolls boxcars and he feels everything, he's got 3 broken legs, 2 broken ribs. The man is held on by the cooling vest and spandex suit. He can walk that turn. And I was like, Mega Mech does this, and it makes me mad because I don't want it on by default all the time. But yeah, that man or woman gets up and moves 1 MP after ejecting. I was like, no, you don't.
Bounced off 4
you
different
do,
tree limbs.
That's why all my Karita guys have a Wakizashi and a pistol for that close combat. Got to defend themselves after they get blown out of the cockpit, which happens a lot.
Isn't that to finish themselves off for the dishonor of each?
That's if they get captured.
Okay. Look, I gotta ask.
Yeah, it's not immediate. No.
So they get 1 MP, and technically they have a +2 modifier to being shot. So it's kind of like
they're tiny.
Yeah, they're 1 dude in a hex. It's cool though if they end a movement phase in the same hex as any unit, friendly or enemy, they're picked up and captured. Quote, rescued or ransomed. You technically can kill them, but like I'm pretty sure there's like 3 lines in the Ares Convention that say don't kill the pilot.
Well, especially now that we're doing the whole mercenaries campaign stuff. If you've got a good pilot who got blown out of their mech and you pick them up, you can ransom. And in the book, it says that's up to the players to decide the terms of that. So there's no default. You can charge whatever you want, and the other player has to decide if they're willing to pay to get that 1-2 pilot back.
How much are you willing to pay for a 1-2 pilot? So how many support points?
It really depends on how many others I have and and what my other mechs are. Like at this point, it could just be I'm like my whole unit's shutting down. You just keep them, whatever. Or it could be so important. I 1,000 SP, which is a lot, like a whole lot.
You're there on the field. It's like, nah, I'll kill him myself.
How badly do you want to ruin friendships, Denim?
Oh, right. I mean, they're all under my command. So. Oh, that would be fun though to do mercenary contracts where every mech is actually another person. You have like group ones. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be.
Sorry, man, you're dead. Out of here.
I mean, that is kind of it's an option.
So there are limitations, like you can't eject if the cockpit is submerged unless it has a full head ejection system. There are a few mechs out there like that, like the Hatchetman.
And Wolfhound.
The whole head pops off.
Just poop pops out. I always thought that was for the toys. Like they were like, oh no, the head pops off. It's a choking hazard. We'll bill it as full head ejection.
It's not a defect, it's a feature.
Yeah.
So that like protects the pilot. Like he doesn't have to do they don't have to do as hard of a roll.
So yeah, so that's if you want to eject, you can. If you have an ammo crit, it forces you to. But if your head gets blown off, you're kind of SOL. Unless you use the optional rules, which I always do. And that's what they call the skin of the teeth ejection. And that's if your head takes internal damage. If the entire internal damage is destroyed, but your cockpit doesn't take a crit. So you still have to roll for the crits. If the cockpit doesn't get crit, because if that's just game over every time. But your entire head is destroyed, so all the internal dots are just gone, then your mech can sense that the head is critically failured and it will automatically eject you even without an ammo explosion. So that's called skin of the teeth. It has its own modifiers. You take damage up to 5. So before you do any rolls for ejection, you are at 5. And then there's a bunch of modifiers for that. So you're probably going to die anyway, but at least there's a chance that you live. And that's super important for like the hardcore role playing or like my campaign group. We do that all the time. That happens quite frequent when somebody gets hit in the head with a Gauss rifle or a Clanny or a PPC. And they're just like, am I just done now? Is my pilot dead? I'm like, no, now we get to see if your skin of the teeth ejection worked and you survived that. And most of the time they do. Not always, but most of the time.
So you take your 5 hits and then you still roll the ejection piloting roll, like essentially?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And there's a +1 for automatic ejection. There's a +5 for how many pilot hits you've taken. You know, it's not an easy roll. It's not.
You're probably going to die.
But there's a chance.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than not having a chance at all.
That is correct.
And what's curious about all of these rules for Classic about ejection and head hits and everything else, this is wild to me because I've never taken the time to really look through a lot of all of this because 90% of what I play is Alpha Strike at the game shop. And we do have a campaign running at my local shop that I run occasionally. And the ejection rules are totally different for Alpha Strike. Similarly, you're allowed to declare ejection at any time. That's not true. I'm sorry. You're allowed to declare ejection at the end phase of any turn. So you have to survive a full round of shooting.
That's rough.
Well,
I mean, to be fair, you've already known like how much damage things are, and then you're like, okay, is he going to make it? He's on 1 structure left.
Right.
No.
Well, you have to kind of anticipate how much you're going to take. So the action takes effect immediately, or if they take an ammo critical hit, again, the ejection system automatically pops off. Similarly, you can't do it in a vacuum or underwater. And the rulebook doesn't say anything about full head ejection systems. There is an ejection special rule that I can pull up here in just a second. Yeah, if you have an ejection seat, but that's not very common. I don't see that on a lot of cards.
No,
but that's really it. You just kind of declare it and you pop out. Similarly, for critical hits, there's no cockpit critical hit. I mean, there is if you roll a 12, but it doesn't call it a cockpit critical hit. In the critical hit chart, it just says unit destroyed. So we have to assume that that's a cockpit hit, right? Or a head hit. But that's it. Alpha Strike makes it, I mean, really very simple. So you don't get a lot of this granularity. So what I have seen is a lot of groups. There's some custom rules floating around out there, and I've co-opted those into our campaign, which takes into account when you eject or if you lose all of your structure. You know, is your pilot wounded? How badly? To add some of that granularity back into Alpha Strike that we see in Classic, but not under the base rules for Alpha Strike. So they're out there.
Because it does slow the game down, and Alpha Strike needs it to flow really smooth.
Yeah.
And
that's
again,
that's like homework phase, and that's great for that. Like, all right,
well, it's after the fact. It's after the fact. It's not during the game. You just say, okay, do I eject? Do I survive? Yes, no, great, done. That's it. That's
cool.
it.
So we've talked about the first 3 slots. The 4th slot, my favorite slot. It's empty. It's free
Yours
space.
is empty.
Yeah, it's free space, free money. What
I'm
are we?
a 30-25 player. That's where I put my ammo. It is the safest place on a 30-25 mech for ammo.
Yes, your pilot feels so.
Extra
my pilot
motivation.
knew what he was getting into.
Extra motivation.
Yeah. What are we sticking in our 4th head slot? I mean, the Grasshopper, well known for the LRM-5, the foot warmer.
Yeah, I like putting energy weapons in there for sure. Just
Small
to have,
laser.
like, even if all my other limbs are blown off, I can still Black Knight it and just wiggle around and shoot things with my face.
Yeah, I mean, a medium laser is good there because, like, a small laser, but a medium laser, that's good damage.
You Wolverine.
I love having the empty slot here for 4 because in my game against Martin, that Thor has an empty slot in 4, and I roll again like 4 times, and it gave me the opportunity to hit that 3, and I smoked him. So I love that being empty on my enemy's mech.
Something there though.
You like it on opponents' mechs, not on your mech.
No, God, no.
You definitely want to try to put something in there. Single heat sinks were great to be put in there back in the old days. Obviously can't get a double in there, but in 30, once case was invented, we stopped putting ammo in that slot. Like I said, energy weapons or your sensor suites, stuff that your mech isn't going to break if it gets hit, because then it is in fact padding to keep your pilot alive.
Now, we did talk. Clan mechs have case in the head, so like it is okay to put ammo in the head.
If they have ammo in there, it does, but it's still like regular case is useless because it still takes out your all the internal structure in there. Case 2, however, does not. Case 2 takes half the remaining armor off the head. Yeah, it's got weird rules.
Blows the I don't want to say blows your brains out, but blows the back of your head off. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's any perfect thing to put in the head. I think it's just what do you want to ride under your pilot that could explode, has just as much chance.
About one Battlemaster puts another pilot under there to absorb the hit.
I
accept that. I accept the second. What is it? It's not a command console.
It's the dual cockpit. The command console is there's dual cockpit and command console. They both do essentially the same thing. They were just called different things. But the command console is in fact the second pilot seat.
Okay, and that just replaces the cockpit and makes it a 2 slot.
Right.
Yeah. Now, if you destroy one slot, the other pilot just hops in like a tripod.
Exactly. They take over. You've got redundant controls.
Just want to make sure that Gauss round hits.
You lose your initiative bonus for having two people in there.
But a backup pilot, always nice. Always nice.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'm just trying to think. Yeah.
And I believe, because I couldn't find any rules stating otherwise, that not auto eject. Like if auto eject is off, then each pilot determines if they eject or not. So they each have to make their own ejection modifier rolls. But I believe that one can decide to eject and the other one can decide to stick with the mech.
So you eject your 1-2 pilot to save him for later, and you make that poor green pilot riding along fight to the death.
Yep.
This is so cruel.
Battletech is a cruel place, Josh.
It is. Ares convention. More like Ares
cheap.
To do
Battlemechs aren't. Except for those 1-2 pilots.
Yeah.
They're expensive.
I'm ransoming them. Maybe. Depending on if
I'm excited about ransoming things in the campaign. I'm very excited about that.
Look, Venom, the light I see in your eyes when you talk about ransoming pilots makes me genuinely concerned.
Fun times.
All right. So, yeah, we got... Streaks.
One shot SRMs.
One shots. I could do a
because
one
their
shot.
ammo doesn't explode if you hit them.
Exactly. Now we're thinking. With gas. All right. Slot 5. More sensors.
Yay.
We've already talked about those. If the first one gets destroyed, then
it's a +2.
Yeah.
The second one, you just can't
shoot at all.
Shoot effectively.
Depending on the rules interpretation of may not.
I need to know the specifics for that.
May not is really clear, guys. It means you can't do it.
Don't tell me what I can and can't do, lawyer man.
Look, I'm just saying may not is very clear.
Your Honor. He fired his small laser to generate 9 heat for TSM with having no sensors. Straight to jail.
Illegal. It is verboten.
Slot 6, also more life support. It's the other half. It's the compressor for the air conditioning unit.
That's right.
Yeah. I feel like 5
life support needs both of those to operate, but it once you destroy one, the whole thing just stops working.
Yeah. Shall we replace the second life support with something else? Like, if we can go back and retrofit, like what else? What are we turning the second life support into?
It's more pilot survivability, so I'm happy how it is.
But if we could turn it into something else, like we've got sensors, I
was going to say more sensor type stuff.
More sensor.
Yeah, well then you could do a 2, 4, a 2 and a 4 and a 0. You know.
I got nothing.
Mini fridge. That's what we put there.
I mean, there are like the survival kits. You can put like actual pilot needs survival stuff.
Needs? Is needs the right word, Josh?
My in-universe pilot has a Shadowhawk that's got half a ton of cargo space in the head, and that's where it is in that slot 4.
Okay,
I remember that now.
And that's
I can put stuff in there.
Totally not contraband.
I could put whatever I want in there. It's this little panel on the floor I lift up, and I can shove a half a ton of stuff in there.
The police need to, quote, use their improved sensors to run a scan and be like, what's in slot 4 of your head? Damn it.
Yeah.
Dang it. All right. So that's slots 1 through 6 of the head. A lot of stuff we already knew, a lot of stuff that we didn't know. I did want to really quickly talk about the alternatives to the head. First off, we have this small cockpit.
Right.
Is it really a small cockpit though? Like it's still in the same slot. It's just weighs less. So you get like
so small cockpit, it is smaller. That what is it? The slot 6 space. The slot 6 life support is gone, so you can actually add two slots of something in there, which is nice. More ammo, lots of ammo. A double heat sink. You cannot eject. You have a +1 to all your piloting skill rolls.
Yeah. That's why the Word of Blake loves their small cockpits, because they taken the Manny Domini enhancements to cancel that out.
Oh, those guys aren't leaving those mechs anyway.
Yeah, they're plugged in.
Ever. They're hardwired in.
That's why they have like large lasers in the head, because
they have 2 slots.
They're like, we have a big weapon in our head.
You put a clan ERPPC in there.
Oh my gosh. I mean, they do. It's just, I hate to see it. I do love the flavor text. It's like, because the Stinger wasn't already cramped. Thank you. The other half of that, the torso-mounted cockpit.
That's right. Yeah, free up all that space in there.
It slaps the head. That's free real estate.
So that one, if you have a torso-mounted cockpit, you have more sensors. So it is a +2 for the first sensor hit, a +4 for the second sensor hit. So you can still do weapon attacks even with 2 sensor hits.
I mean, that's pretty good. But do I need, like, besides if the head is destroyed, the mech is still operational, which there is what do I fear most? The mech getting cored out and donuted, or the head lopped off?
Well, it's so much easier to hit that center torso So I would say I much prefer cockpits in the head. Much prefer.
Steve, cockpit in the head, cockpit in the chest.
I've never run a torso-mounted cockpit net before.
Like 3 people have. Don't worry about it.
I mean, I think I still want it on that 12 slot. You know what I mean? For hit location, I think I still want it on that 12. Just because you don't want your pilot rocked around taking those pilot hits, especially if you're playing with ransom rules that Denim seems to be so fond of.
Yeah, they're awesome.
You don't want your pilots turning into ground beef.
I mean, they weren't long for this world anyways.
Not the way you play.
That's true. You got me there. Yeah, I can't.
But it does free up space in the head. So there.
The one torso-mounted cockpit that I know more well is the Götterdämmerung.
I thought you were going to say the Prometheus.
There's the Prometheus. There's several, but it's each faction I want to say has one that they were torso-mounted cockpits are the way of the future, boys. And then they were maybe not.
With the Prometheus, they were trying to do that whole enhanced imaging stuff, which is, kind of how the Andy Domini were created eventually after a few hundred years. But yeah, because you're in there and you don't need the sensors. You just become the mech.
Yeah. So the head has 2 sensors and then 4 open slots.
Yep.
Which is really good. The Götterdämmerung has an LRM-15 and the ammo in the head. So the only way your ammo explosion is the head. And remember, if we all remember the damage flow chart, head doesn't go down. Head
does not.
Just explodes.
Yep.
So the rest of the mech is fine.
Well, you still take 2 pilot damage, but you can't eject. There is no, just like the small cockpit, the torso-mounted cockpit does not have an ejection system.
Yeah.
We're in for the whole ride.
I was going to joke, this isn't a T-72.
Yeah. It's like the cartoon where the whole torso splits open and the guy goes flying out. That doesn't happen.
So yeah, I guess if I only had 1 ton of ammo, and I don't know, there's no perfect answer. If it was, we'd all have torso-mounted cockpits. But I do like the fact of there's a torso-mounted cockpit and there's sensors in the CT. So now the pilot, there's a chance he could die, but
you could get your head blown off and you can still shoot things.
Exactly.
I need a statistical analysis to see if that's likely. I don't think the answer is yes.
Now, luckily, you don't take analysis. You don't take pilot hits if you get hit in the torso.
Yeah, there's enough cushioning there.
But you do if you fall over and hit the torso. Yeah. So you're still going to take more damage.
With my dice luck and the number of PSRs I fail by rolling a 3 when I need a 4 is surprisingly high.
No, it's just that literally is the Battletech curse. If you need a 7, you're going to roll 6s. If you need 6s, you're just going to roll 5s all the time.
I mean, it's frustrating to a point of almost flipping tables. And look, at the game shop, they're big tables. They're 4x8 tables.
You're going to crush some poor kid whose very first game of Battletech.
Yeah, well, work on those reflexes.
Yeah, I think that's the head.
I was like, tune in next week where we talk about feet.
Only if we're recording on Thursdays.
But no, so I will, in this episode with Steve, did you learn anything for the head that you are excited to take back to your tables?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I learned a ton about sensors. That isn't something I look up a lot unless we need it at the table. And 9 times out of 10, when I take hits to the head, the critical hits don't matter, right? At that point, the head's destroyed. So it's not often you end up with 1 or 2 points, at least in our games. Maybe it's because we all run a bunch of PPCs and Gauss rifles. So if you get hit in the head, it's game over. But no, the sensor, how involved sensor damage it was pretty cool to learn about for this episode.
What about you, Denim? I knew you technically know all the stuff we talked about, but...
No, have played with. I mean, I've run torso-mounted cockpits on that Prometheus once. Also, of course, for a role-playing game. I've used all those sensors in double-blind games. It's nice to look over it again because this stuff does not come up very often.
No.
But the Mercenaries box set has gotten me excited about campaign play and possible double-blind stuff.
Fun optional rules are looking a little tasty now.
Yep.
No, I think for me, it's definitely the ejection. Like I want to eject out of my mechs. I want to give my pilots names. I want to roll up backstories for them, and I want them to, quote, not die. And then we have to roll them not dying. And then
every little bit of chance we can have to keep them alive just a little bit longer. Yes.
Or I want their deaths to be like, well, he was fine until he ejected backwards into that heavy woods wall and he hit 4 trees before the last one finally stopped him.
It's the best stories.
I'm telling you, ejection systems are Desgra. Unacceptable.
But that's also a story arc for your guy who just got destroyed. You know, that goes in the story. You know, the head got rocked. He saw it coming, and he hit the no button on the eject. He hit the no. I will stay here, please.
I only have the bravest, most honorable, and humble Mechwarriors in my cockpits.
That's all I think for us tonight. We learned a lot, though. It's time for you, Mechwarriors, to eject.
So, just remember, you can contact us at the Mechbay Podcast at gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook, Discord, and Instagram. And a special thank you, as always, to our Patreons. Josh, I would like you to take this opportunity to form the feet and legs. Steve, you will form the arms and torso. And I will form the head. Good night, everybody.
Go, Mechbay. Fighting
it's
evil.
Power Rangers. This is Voltron. Go bots. Mighty Go bots.